you know, what's the point of believing God? Like, he doesn't do what we ask. He doesn't do anything good. It's like, there's no point. You know, he doesn't care about us. Hey everyone, it's Monique Renewed. Welcome back to another video. So today's video is going to be a heavy topic. I'm going to be talking about depression and how to overcome depression and cope. So if you don't like heavy topics like this, that is a trigger warning. But I think it would be useful and helpful to people like me who don't get to talk about these type of things enough. Please hit the subscribe button down below to join the fam. I make faith and lifestyle content. Don't forget to share this video with someone who you think it may be helpful to. And yeah, let's get started. Now, all of our emotions in life serve a purpose. They serve to send a signal or a message to us to help us relate to other people and to understand the world around us. Sadness, we need sadness. It is what makes us human. It helps us to relate to people in their circumstances. If we didn't have sadness, we wouldn't be empathetic towards others. We would be perceived as cold-hearted robots. It's what makes us human, basically. But sadness could be very persistent. It can linger and last long and turn into depression. Now, depression is defined as persistent sadness. It is a myriad of symptoms that include irritability, loss of hope, low self-esteem, emptiness. What's different about depression is that it can really affect our mood and affect the way that we function in day-to-day life, because whatever is causing your depression is consistently at the forefront of your mind. So it can really make it hard to focus on everyday tasks. That's why they say a lot with depression, you tend to lose interest in things that once made you happy. Now, there are many things in life that can cause depression. Most likely it is situational, such as issues at work, school, or at home. It could be relational situations or problems going on with family members or friends. It could be due to an illness, grief, death, life-changing events, financial struggles. The list goes on. We've all heard of a bunch of issues and problems that surround this world. And that's one thing that the world is not short of, is problems. And depression can occur due to the problems not changing or things happening like back to back to back. Now, this is a Christian channel, so of course I'm going to focus on biblical aspects because it centers the way I see life. The one person who has experienced most of these problems all at once, may I add, his children were killed. He lost all his finances. His wife didn't respect him anymore. He had a sudden sickness, and that person was Job. So he is the person that I chose to draw an example out of his life so that we can sort of shift our perspective on things. And actually yesterday I was watching a documentary regarding a woman whose daughter was murdered by her spouse. She said that, you know, all along she knew it was him, but of course he was lying and stuff, and tried to say that it was basically he had finally confessed to her that he did it. And she's a believer. She said by the strength of the Holy Spirit, she had to contain herself in order to not go off on this man. And keep in mind, she still had to interact with him because of her grandkids. Yeah. So imagine interacting with your daughter's murderer. She had to contain herself in order to receive the confession that he was about to give her so she could be able to hand it over to the police. So that showed a lot of constraint and self-control that a lot of us can admit that we would not be able to have in this type of situation. And mind you, it's been years since that incident happened, and my point in detailing this is that she could have really resented God and felt betrayed, not even believed him anymore. You know, I believed in you, I was a Christian, I was a believer, and how could you allow this to happen to my daughter? You know, who I assume was also a believer. She spoke about God as well. So I'm pretty sure Job also felt a sense of betrayal. You know, he did everything right, made all his sacrifices, prayed, made sure not to sin. He was an upright citizen of society. He did no wrong. You know, the Bible described him as top tier, okay? And God blessed him tremendously. You know, he lived a very successful life. He had many great things, and which is the reason why Satan wanted to test him in the first place, which God offered him up to Satan. God himself offered up to Satan, like, have you seen my servant Job? He is perfect all his ways. It brings it to question, like, why would God allow this to happen? Why would he offer him up to be wrecked by Satan like that? You know, I love what Job said in chapter 2 verse 10. He said, should we accept only good things from the hand of God and never anything bad? And this was after his wife told him to curse God and to die. And he told her, quite frankly, that's foolish. Why would I do that? And I feel like sometimes as believers, or people in general, we feel like we have a sense of entitlement. We feel like nothing bad should happen to us because we believe in God. We have this some sort of impenetrable protection that prevents us from experiencing any tragedies in life. And just because we believe in God, we are going to be provided with a fairy tale type of life, everything perfect, all the money in the world, wealth, fame, and some preachers do preach that, unfortunately, that, oh, if you give this amount, that God will bless you sevenfold and blah, blah, blah. But I mean, it's nice to give, but that's not the purpose of giving and seeking God's face rather than his hand. That doesn't mean God won't bless you in life, but that's not all of what life is about. And sometimes we are tested to see if we are seeking his hand rather than his face. And this doesn't mean that God won't bless us. Of course he blesses us. He blesses us tremendously, and he already has, and he will continue to do so. But do you give your kids everything they want out of life? Or if you don't have any kids, would you give your kids every single thing that they've asked for? The wise answer is no, you wouldn't give your kids every single thing, because it creates a sense of entitlement and it makes them spoiled, and it develops these poor attitudes and behaviors later on in life. And I feel like with God being our good father, that's the same concept. He doesn't give us everything in life, and more so he is concerned about developing our character, and your reaction to certain life circumstances reveals what's in your heart. And that's what he was trying to prove with Satan in regards to Job. He already knew what was in Job's heart, and he already knew that Job would remain faithful to him despite losing all of his possessions, because Job wasn't serving him for possessions. He was serving him because of who he was and not what he could do for him. And I feel like God does test us in certain ways, probably not as extreme as what you see here, but a lot of these things that happened to Job we can relate to: illnesses, loss of finances, difficult relationships with friends and your spouse, maybe losing your home. Now, don't get me wrong, Job was going through it, okay? He, at that point, hated his life. He said he loathed his life. He wished he was never born. The day he was born was a day of darkness, okay? He went through it. And you could see that while reading his story. So if you know that you're going to remain faithful to God regardless of what's happening, what do you do with those emotions of betrayal and hurt and anger and bitterness and resentment? It's like, okay, I'm going through this. I know God loves me. I know he will rectify the situation. But what do I do in the meanwhile with all these feelings that's driving me crazy and feel like I'm about to do something crazy? What did Job do? Basically, when I was writing this out, I was like, so what do you do? Like, what do you do when you're literally down to your last dollar? You have literally no other solution in life. You feel like you're about to end it all because you have no other way out. The only thing that came to mind what Job did was that he waited on God. That's the only answer I can provide you with from reading the book of Job, was that he waited for God to answer him. He waited on God. And I know this could sound like so basic, like, oh my gosh, like you don't understand what I'm going through. I understand everybody goes through something in life. That waiting period, waiting on God to do something, can be the most excruciating time period of your life. Believe me, I understand, okay? It can feel like I cannot wait any longer. I'm about to resolve this myself. But I'm telling you not to do that, because you can end up making things worse for yourself and for people around you. And it is best to wait on God and wait on his infinite wisdom and wait for his answer. Of course, pray to God about the situation. This is what's happening and this is what I need for you to help me. And he does come through. I could think about the time where Saul was waiting on Samuel to do some type of sacrifice, I believe. I can't really remember all the way, but like he didn't wait and he did it anyways and he messed things up. We could be like on the brink of breakthrough and then we just do something out of our own impatience and then mess the whole thing up. So my best advice is to wait for God to bring out the best solution. And I'm telling you that this is not going to be easy, okay? But it will be the best thing to do for yourself and for others. There's been several time periods in my life where I felt like there's no way out of this and I wanted to end things for myself, and literally, boom, a door opened out of nowhere. Even at times where like I didn't believe in God. Not that I didn't believe in God, but I didn't have a relationship with God like I do now. And it might not always be what you want it to be, but if you let God guide your life and show you the correct path and to give you that path, then it will always be the best thing for you. It's not necessarily what you want, but what is best for you and for your development. Another important thing is, what do you do while you're waiting? You know, I'm feeling these intense feelings, intense pain, turmoil, tormenting thoughts, negative thinking in my head. What do I do with all this? You know, and the feelings of persistent sadness and hopelessness. What do I do with these negative feelings and thoughts? Many of us, including myself, often resort to a form of escapism. Escapism is like almost like an alternate reality that you turn to in order to escape your problems and to escape your emotions and to not deal with the pain. These type of engaging activities can include excessive shopping, binge eating or emotional eating, excessive drug use or excessive drinking, having a social media addiction, that is a real thing, promiscuity, and these things are often used to fill a void in your life that only God could fill. And it doesn't actually resolve your problem. There's usually something deeper emotionally going on at the root cause, and these are just symptoms that are being used to mask the real issue at hand. And at this point of your life, it is a time for healing often, but we turn away from that healing and resort to other things that don't benefit us in the long run. And these type of outlets can be more destructive than helpful. So while you're in a waiting, while you're waiting for God to bring about a resolution to your issues and to your problems, you can do things that can benefit you and others, such as connecting with individuals that are going through similar problems as you. Contrary to belief, there are about 8 billion people in the world. You are not the only one going through a situation that is similar to yours. When I talk to people and they say, yeah, I've been through that too, it helps to bring about a better perspective. Often our perspective is limited, and that's what causes a lot of the negative thinking, is feeling that we are alone, that we're the only one going through this. And why would God do this to me? And it's like, you're not alone. Trust me. There are people that could relate to you, to your problems, and are probably going through it now or on the other side of it. So as believers, we are called to be the hands and feet of Jesus on this earth. We often expect some miracle to drop out the sky, and sometimes it can, but most likely than not, God will use everyday people such as you and I to help and benefit others, and to speak to others, and to speak life into each other. That's how God works. He uses people in everyday life, especially to affirm people's belief in him and to encourage them. The lady that I had mentioned earlier is actually, she's either in the process or she has already opened up her own 501c nonprofit. I believe it's a center to help other people who are grieving due to the loss of a loved one, and which I think is so great and fantastic. She could have used those ill feelings and harbored that resentment and let it grow and fester into anger, and she could have probably, you know, killed that man herself if she wanted to. She could have been angry at God. She could have been like, forget God, I'm not believing in him no more. Why would he allow this to happen? But she used that energy for good. She used it to benefit others and to produce more good and love in this world, rather than turning it into something negative and something far off worse for her life. And now she's helping people that are going through similar things as her. I heard a saying somewhere where if somebody threw everybody's problems up in the air and we ran to go catch it, everybody would be fighting to catch their own problems, which I thought was hilarious. Okay, so this really puts into perspective that everybody is going through something. And it is really interesting to hear about other people's stories and what they've been through. And you will be amazed and astonished about people's stories of infidelity, financial issues, being homeless, being hungry, struggling, losing their job, losing their home. You know, right before the holidays, they get laid off. And not to minimize anybody's struggle, we all go through the issues, and it's very much an issue for each of us, whatever we're going through. It gives you just enough strength to keep going on, to keep moving forward. In regards to outlets, you know, earlier I mentioned the unhealthy outlets that we can resort to that do us more harm than good in the long run. There are many beneficial outlets, like I said, reaching out to help others. I personally like journaling. I mentioned this 100 times. I love journaling. You can pray your journal. If you find that you don't even have the words to speak to God, you could just write it out. That helps so much. It helps tremendously to write out your thoughts and how you feel on paper, so that it's not being contained in your heart, so you don't lash out. That comes with that irritability and that moodiness that comes with depression, because there are these emotions hidden deep down inside that just comes out so inappropriately sometimes. So writing it out can help you release those emotions. Doing prayer cards, like if you suffer with negative and tormenting thoughts, that is often the enemy trying to implant those thoughts in your head, because the mind is a powerful place. So what's in your head is sinks into your heart and it influences your behaviors. So if you have thoughts of, oh, I hate my life, why does God hate me, I'm never going to amount to anything good, on the back of your prayer card, I've made a video on DIY prayer cards. You can write out the lies that the enemy is trying to tell you, and then on the front you can write scriptures to combat it. God's word is very powerful. It is a double-edged sword to fight off these negative thinkings and negative thought patterns to influence your behaviors. So you can stop it dead in its tracks. You know, you're worthy. God has a plan for you. God will help you in due time. You know, you can start to replace these negative thoughts with God's word. And then the more you replay that in your mind and replace it, the more strengthened and encouraged you become, and the more unlikely you will do something detrimental to you and others. There are many other outlets: reading, listening to music. I believe God gives everybody a special gift. If you're good at drawing, painting, you know, use this time to discover and enhance your talents, and maybe it can go somewhere really far. You never know. Tragedy often has a way of bringing about a miraculous situation out of it. You can discover so much about yourself that you never knew. Give your situation to God and just wait for him and watch him work the miracle that you need in your life. You know, your life is not over. You have so much more. This pain can really be used for something good, and that's what God does. You know, Romans 8:28, where it says that God causes all things to work out for good for those who love him. And that's the good and the bad. It's not just good from God. Often we have to accept the bad things as well, and the bad thing serves for something good. Sometimes the solution is not always what you think is going to be in your head. God said that his thoughts are higher than our thoughts and his ways are higher than our ways. So it might not be what you think, but best believe it's what's right. Okay, it's what's supposed to happen. And God has the entire picture of your life. We have like a limited understanding and a limited way of thinking of what our life should be, but God knows everything in the grand scheme of things. He knows how everybody connects together, and it's not just about you. You know, it's also about other people in your life. So trust him to bring out the best solution. And even if you think it might not have been what you wanted, it's what he knows is the best thing that should happen. Speaking about, you know, sometimes we get confused and angry and hurt at God because we're like, well, why didn't you do it this way? And why didn't you do it that way? And recently I had a friend who passed away from breast cancer. We worked together in the same office. My cubicle is directly across from her office, actually. And I came to a realization, I don't think I've ever really had like a close friend pass away. So this type of death really hurt and devastated me. You know, I prayed for her healing, and I just wanted her healed so bad. I wanted this cancer to rid of her body so bad. And she was a very special individual. She taught me so much about being resilient and just her ethics. And she would come into work with back pain, and she knew her cancer was spreading, but she would still come into work. She had a work letter that allowed her to work from home, and she would still come in. And I would be like, why are you doing this? You know, people make excuses to stay home for less. And she never made excuses. She was so generous. She spoke so much life into me. She saw my potential. Her recent death was just so sudden, and it's not something that you wanted like at all. It's like, I just wanted to see her get better so much. And she had like such a big personality. She would tell you how it is, okay? She loved on people regardless. And I think because of her illness, it kind of made her the type of person she was. The way that she loved people, the way that she was so generous with others. She didn't hold back. That's what I really loved about her. And she taught me so much in this life. When you lose family members that are older, that are suffering with illness, it's almost like, okay, they're getting of age, and it's you kind of have in your mind to prepare yourself that that might happen. But she was a younger individual, and like I said, I've never really lost a friend before, and it was the type of loss of a friendship that you knew was developing, and we were getting closer. And I was just opening up to her, and she was opening up to me. So it's like, it was just devastating. And I always look forward to her coming in the office. Like every time she opened the door, I would hear her heels clacking and see her cute outfit that she had on. And we would be talking in her office. And I'm really gonna miss those moments. And she really reminded me of myself as well. You know, she always said she wasn't a girly girl, but like, she was like, you are a girly girl, and we like the same things and stuff. And when she passed away, I was questioning God. I was like, why? She was so young, like, and I was praying for you to heal her. Like, why didn't you heal her? And you know, it just wasn't God's plan. And you know, it would be selfish and entitled for me to tell God what to do. You know, I don't own her. You know, you don't own anybody, so you can't question as to why certain people pass away and certain people get to live. So I had to like resolve within myself and within my heart, like, okay, you're not God, you can't tell him what to do, and to let go of this entitlement. Like, just because you prayed for somebody's healing doesn't automatically mean it's gonna happen. So I had to let that go. I would tell her, try to see if you could see a dietitian to help. I would give her books and stuff like that, and it's just anything for her to get better. I just wanted her to get better so bad. I think it gave me comfort, you know, replaying the memories in my head that I remember her saying, you know, she did once believe in Buddha, and I talked about my faith in Jesus a lot. Eventually she did say that she does believe in Jesus, and so hearing her, you know, saying a while ago that she does believe in Jesus, I think those memories kind of brought comfort into my heart. Like, okay, she's not on earth, but heaven is better. It kind of gave me peace and comfort in my heart knowing that she's in heaven. She's in a better place. It would be selfish of me to try to hold a grudge against God and like, you know, why didn't you heal her? And why didn't you call it a miracle to happen? And sometimes that's not how God works, okay? And we have to get that out of our mind that sometimes God will bring out a different solution than what we anticipate. I could have really resented God for that, like, oh, what's the point of praying? Like, I was praying and praying and praying and you still didn't do it. And I could have resented him and been bitter and said, you know, what's the point of believing God? Like, he doesn't do what we ask. He doesn't do anything good. It's like, there's no point, right? You know, he doesn't care about us, but we have to trust that God has infinite wisdom and that he sees all, he knows all, he hears all, he knows everything, okay? And that we have to trust that whatever happens, whatever outcome that happens is due to his sovereignty. Nothing happens outside of him knowing it, and that we have to trust that he is good, that he is a good father and he does what's best for us. Okay, so that is all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoy and that it brought some type of clarity and light into your situation, especially as believers. We can still suffer with depression and persistent sadness due to our situation in life, but that does not mean that it's over. We can trust God with the best outcome despite our limited understanding. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.